Hi mom, and welcome back. So, sometimes I do book content, sometimes I do makeup content, I do all sorts of things. I'm living my life, I'm doing good. So we're gonna combine book content and makeup content today and do a video I did last year, but we're gonna do it again! And we're gonna do a get ready with me featuring all the books I've read so far this year. It's the end of the year, so I am in the middle of a couple of reads. I was really excited to do this video, so I'm gonna do it. My goal was to read 60 books this year. I don't quite think I'm gonna hit it. I'm at like 54. I'd have to read like 2 books a week to get to my goal by the end of the year, but I think I'm gonna read just a little bit of that. I think I'm gonna be so close, but not quite close enough. But yeah, so we're gonna do Get Ready With Me. We're probably gonna do like a really dramatic, like glittery look today. Last year I themed this makeup around From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout because that was my favorite book of the year last year. But this year I'm just gonna kind of do what I want, use some of my new makeup. By the way, this is gonna be my only disclaimer I'm gonna make. I read trashy, smashy, disgusting romance. Okay, I am reading taboo romance, dark romance. I am reading stuff that would make your grandma shake in her boots. Okay, so if you're not into that, let's get going. It is hard to talk and do your makeup at first, but we're gonna get the hang of it. We're gonna start with the eyebrows. We're gonna start at the beginning of the year with the first book I read of the year, which is Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. So this is a MC romance with stands for Motorcycle Club. This is a very popular series in the indie book world. There's one more book in this series on my read list this year that I will talk about later that is juicy schmoosy, but I wasn't the hugest fan of this one. I love the found family trope, but it is like a high school girl and like a 32-year-old man. Okay, and are you judging me? I said this was taboo, which like they made it clear that it was legal, but I still felt a little icky reading it. But it was, sometimes it's fiction. So yeah, I'm not explaining this well. There is a big age gap in this book. A very taboo age gap between a high schooler and an adult man. They make it clear that it's legal where it's taking place. Would I be in support of that in real life? No. But in fiction, was I having fun with the book? Yes. So that's my main point. This follows Zeus and Lou, and Zeus is the guy that saved her life in a parking lot church shootout when she was a child. She also has cancer. If you think it sounds wild, that's because it is. And they get together later in life. And was it a little creepy? Sure, yeah, mama, it was. But I like this series overall. It's like that sound on TikTok that's like, holy fuck, is this wrong? But holy shit, is it erotic? Okay. So I don't have a better way to explain that book because there's not a better way to explain that book, but I read it and I gave it 3 stars. Okay, I can't believe that I read this year. It feels like a million years ago. This is my Juvia's Place foundation, by the way. It's very full coverage. It looks crazy as I'm putting it on. But A Nordic King by Karina Halley. I liked this book. This was just a nice little royal family romance about a nanny with a past that becomes the nanny for a Nordic royal family. I can't remember. Sweden? Does Sweden have a king? I don't remember where. And she falls in love with the king, and then she becomes the queen. And I think I gave this one 3 stars too. It was very cute, but as you will see throughout this list, I'm not really going for cute. I'm kind of going for hardcore. So some of these faces I'm making. It was cute. If you want a cute little sweet romance to live your princess fairy tale dreams with some nice smutty scenes, then this is the one for you. Okay, next is Helen Hart's Follow Me Darkly. This was like a 50 Shades of Grey era book, like BDSM. I didn't finish the series. There's like 3 in the series. I think I gave this one 3 stars too, which for me is like a I like taboo more than I like BDSM. And I think at one point BDSM was taboo, but 50 Shades of Grey brought that into the light. I don't remember it very well. It was kind of lackluster. I remember kind of being annoyed at the guy character. This is my Kimchi the Most concealer. I'm gonna cover up the red circles on my eyes, I promise. Yeah, that was book number 3. Okay, Girl, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This was the 6th book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, which is beloved by many readers, but hated by many others. If you're a reader, you know. If you know, you know. Sarah J. Maas used to be shelved as YA, and then she came out with this banger and she said, I'm going to talk about bodily fluids and I'm going to use the word seed. That's what she said. And did I have a good time? This book is about Nesta and Cassian. Nesta's a bitch, and I love that. I love a bitch in fiction. I love a problematic female fave. Nesta was such a dynamic character for me, and I know a lot of people were like, this is the Nesta book. I hate Nesta. But I was living for it. Her and Cassian, I loved their dynamic. I loved the story. I loved seeing all the other characters. 5 stars. Don't buy this for your teenager, okay? This is like one of the most mainstream examples of a smut book that I can think of. So next. When He's Dark by Suzanne Wright. Suzanne Wright knows how to get you out of a slump. All of her books are formulaic. All of her books are the same. She writes like a badass female character, a misunderstood male character, a bitchy side female character. Is it low-key misogynistic? A little bit, Suzanne. This was about a Wolverine shifter and like a palace cat shifter. I don't know what a palace cat is, but that's what they said. I love shifter books, like wolf shifters, fucking tiger shifters, dragon shifters. You'll see that later on. They're all about mates and claiming and being very infernally alpha. And do I love that? I would say yeah. Suzanne Wright knows how to get me out of a slump. When I just want something that I know what to expect, I read a Suzanne Wright book. I read like 4 or 5 last year. And I think it was a 3-star read, but it got me out of a slump. We thank her for her service. I wanna see where the people are. Is that how that goes? I wanna see them dancing. Anyway, not appropriate to sing Disney when talking about hardcore smut, is it? Next is The Doctor by Nikki Sloan. When I tell you that this book was so good, I gave it 5 stars. You're gonna see a lot of my dad, not my dad. You're gonna see a lot of like my ex-boyfriend's dad type of content on this list here today in front of God. And I would say, you're welcome for me putting this out here on the internet. You are all welcome that I am willing to be so brave and unhinged for you all. This is a girl who gets broken up with by her boyfriend and she says, you know what? That's fine. I'm gonna fuck your dad. And he's a doctor. It's called The Doctor. Chef's kiss. It was a short, smutty read. It was good, and I was into that for a while this year. You're gonna see some phases. You're gonna see a woman who went through some phases. Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This was a student teacher. This is my book video, except what I'm reading gets progressively worse. Although Welcome to the Dark Side was quite the start off. I went in and I said, okay, Dark Notes, this is a student teacher. I would say heavy trigger warning for this book. The main character in this book is very, very abused by the people in her life, and it's kind of a trope. It's forbidden because he's the teacher and she's the student. He kind of like rescues her from her shitty home life, which like, who doesn't love that fantasy, you know what I mean? Don't wait for a man to rescue you, babe, but read about it in fiction. Their relationship just ended up being so sweet, and this was what Jen Loves, what's her name? Not Jen Loves Reviews, that's a makeup YouTuber. Jen here on BookTube, Jen, she reads, I can't remember. She's a booktuber, but she calls this BDSM as healing, which is like where you're exploring a sexual dynamic and it's kind of healing for you. So that's kind of what happens in this book. But definitely check the trigger warnings. And there is some surprisingly violent stuff in this book, so Pam Godwin is definitely a darker author, but I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't like the best thing, because this was like kind of in the beginning of my taboo reading, and I was like, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm having a good time. And then I was like, maybe I'm having a really good time, so I gave it 4 stars. Okay, change of tone. Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross. I read some Juliet Cross last year. She is also a great slump buster. Light but good writing. She's on the other end. She's on the rom-com end of the spectrum. I just like her writing. This is in her Savoy or Savoie Sisters series. I don't know how you say it. Where it's about like 5 or 6 witch sisters and all of their various supernatural love interests. The first one was Wolf Gone Wild. That was about Evie and Mateo. And then this one is the second one, which is about Isadora and Devraj, I think is his name. Super cute. Isadora is an introvert. She's like a healer witch. Devraj is like an ancient ninja vampire. He's like super sweet, extroverted. And this is their little rom-com love story. Very low angst, just very sweet and cute and funny, but really sexy. I love this series, and you're gonna see one more from it on the list. Okay, next. We're getting back to the theme of the video. Priest by Sierra Simone. I gotta hurry this up. This is a priest romance. Heavy, heavy Catholicism. Very sacrilegious. Very sacrilegious. So if that's gonna bother you, don't read this. Yeah, it's about a priest named Tyler Bell who becomes a priest for kind of sad reasons, and then he falls in love with one of his parishioners. So very taboo. I gave it 2 stars because I thought it was a little boring, but the sex scenes were... I didn't like reading about his religious guilt because that's something I've dealt enough with in my own life. But the sex scenes, mama, were... I was like, Sierra. Sierra. Anyway, next. This is gonna be such a tone change. Too Much by Rachel Verona Cote. This is a feminist text. That's all I'm gonna say about it. That's not why you're here. So I read that. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. Borderline by Michelle Baker. This is a fantasy series that has borderline personality disorder rep. So it's like a fae-based fantasy series where the main character has borderline personality disorder, and she goes into this like detective fae program for people with mental illnesses, and they recruit people with mental illnesses. And I have borderline, which I've talked about on this channel, which is, if you're here to hate on people with borderline, fucking back off, guy. Yeah, this was a really well-written borderline character. I like Millie a lot. She was really relatable to me, and this book is just fun and poignant, and I liked it. So it's a fantasy, it's not a romance, it's just like a fantasy series. Sweet Dandelion by Michaela Schmelzer. This I gave 3 stars. How do I say it? This was a school shooting victim and her school counselor, and it was very deep, very tragic, and the author handled the subject matter well, but it's not a fun read. It's like 600 pages. You question yourself while you're reading it. But I've heard it was really good from More to Mary, and I kind of liked it, but I don't know, just very heavy. The Truth About Heartbreak by B. Celeste. This is when I was going through my More to Mary phase, when I was reading everything that More to Mary wanted you to read. This is a cheating romance, so if you don't like that, their romance basically starts because they cheated. But this is like a childhood friend, older brother's best friend romance, and their romance actually was really sweet. I was loving the stuff in the past, but then you didn't actually get any of that build up. Like, they're talking about like, oh my god, we cheated because we loved each other so much, and he was trapped in this relationship with another girl, and then you don't actually see the sex scene, and I was like, I compromised my morals for this. 3 stars. The writing was good, but the delivery just wasn't really there for me. We're getting into my Katie Robert phase, you guys. Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert. Short, very, 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 very smutty. Wants revenge on the ex-boyfriend, fucks his dad. Heavy on the daddy kink. Excellent. I gave it 4 stars because I was ashamed, but I'd probably take that back and give it 5 stars because I loved it, okay? Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. This is her Wicked Villains series. This is smutty retelling of Disney characters and their villains. So this one was Jasmine and Jafar. This is actually a very popular series. You know, don't read Katie Robert unless you are fully an adult because her writing is very explicit. But this book I gave 5 stars. It was short. I read it in 1 sitting. It was a lot of fun, and I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't. Desperate Measures. Color Me Pretty, also by B. Celeste. Trigger warning for an eating disorder on this one. The main girl had an eating disorder that's talked about pretty explicitly. This is a dad's best friend romance, but it was too creepy for me. It was like he would like kind of raised her, and it was too close to being her actual dad. Listen, I like the taboo, but I didn't like that. It was too much for me. I've heard other people like it, but it was too much for me, and it was kind of boring. So, okay, Learn My Lesson. This is a Menage A Trois in the Wicked Villains series. I think this one was Meg, Hades, and Hercules. All of this takes place in a sex club, by the way. So if that doesn't float your boat, then I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, this is a love story between 3 people. I like how she did it. She really made it seem like I bought that these 3 people would love each other and that they worked together in a relationship. There's definitely some sub and dom stuff going on. It wasn't my favorite in the series. I like Desperate Measures was probably my favorite. It was good, and the series is fun. Or We're the Opponent. This one is Tinkerbell and Hook. This one I remember just being good. Again, We're the Opponent or Desperate Measures was my favorite. Okay, Being Hers by Anna Stone. This was my first female romance that I had ever read. It wasn't super memorable. This is right around the time that I was realizing I was bisexual, so I read female romances this year that were really good. Some sapphic romances. This was a BDSM sapphic romance, but it wasn't my favorite. It was a little boring also, so I think I gave it 3 stars. Michelle Baker, Phantom Pains. This is the second one in the Borderline series. I read the whole series. My Dad's Best Friend, Katie Robert. Again, very short, very smutty, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like, mama. Seducing My Guardian, Katie Robert. Again, exactly what it sounds like. All excellent reads. Okay, Waking the Dragon by Juliet Cross. This is the same author that did that Savoy Sisters series. I didn't finish the rest of the series. You'll see a kind of a trend with me not finishing series. I'm the worst. But this was a dragon man hybrid romance in a reality where the Morgans, who are the dragon men, aren't really equal to the humans, but they're like working on equality in their city. And so this reporter is like uncovering this like cult, and she falls in love with a Morgan man. And it was good. I liked it. I don't remember what I rated it star-wise, but I liked it. Okay, The Boss by Abigail Owen. This is my dragon phase. This is my dragon shifter phase. This was a dragon shifter romance about dragons that are masquerading as, you guessed it, firefighters. That's all that I really remember. It was fun. So Soulfire, Nightbloom, and Windburn. I listened to these on audiobook by Juliet Cross. These are more in that universe with the Morgan men, the dragon men. Yeah, these were just smutty little novellas about dragon men and finding their mates, basically. I love stuff with fated mates because I'm trash. That's basically that on that. Why is there so much cat hair in here? Okay, I'm gonna take this Colourpop blush. The Demi God by Abigail Owen. Again with Abigail Owen. I didn't finish this series because the second one was like a marriage of convenience that I wasn't really into. I don't really remember this book. Mama. The Demi God by Abigail Owen. I don't know. Okay, Kiss of the Blood Prince by Alessa Thorne. This was a fae book. This was Captor Captive, Fated Mates, and basically he was a dick the whole time, and then he was like, oh, you're my mate? Never mind, I love you. That was that book. Friends with the Monsters. This was my first by Albany Walker. This was my first reverse harem. If you're not familiar with reverse harem, one girl, lots of dudes. Romance. So this was a paranormal where she falls in love with like a lion shifter, a grim reaper, a berserker, whatever that means. And they're all her little fated mates and they're all in love. Fucking judge me if you want to, okay? Okay. These are all, the romance community knew about all this. So you're not gonna tell me anything that the romance community hasn't already heard. The Beast by Katie Robert. This is again in the Wicked Villains series, and this was about Beast, who is just a man, Gaston and Belle, and this is like a second chance romance. A lot of baggage to unpack, but I think Katie Robert did a really good job. This is the last one in the Wicked Villains series I've read because I tried to read the Ursula Ariel Eric book and it was a little, I didn't like it as much. Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. Oh my god. Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. This one is a student teacher. It's a priest book and it's an age gap. And it was delicious. I gave it 5 stars. There's a little bit of weird stuff going on in this book, but you know, 5 stars. The Highlander's Desire by Margot McGuire. I thought I was gonna read historicals, but they're a little boring. 3 stars. I don't want to talk about that book. This is a mental health book, but I don't want to talk about it. The Black Fox by Brianna Hale. I thought her writing was very juvenile and I didn't like it. Tia Harrison, Dragonbound. I gave this 5 stars, but I think I'd go back and give it 4. This was again in my dragon phase. This was about a dragon and a unicorn. Sometimes I read things that are really cheesy, but I liked it and 4 stars. Ruby Dixon, Fire in His Blood. She fucks a dragon man, mama. Like fully, not like a dragon shifter, like a dragon man. Like he's got scales on his pee-pee. And she says, I would like to see it. So that's what that is. Fated. Didn't I read the second one? I read Fated and Descent by Liza James. These are like fallen angel fated mate romances. They're dark, they're gritty, they're enemies to lovers, very tension. I think that they were a little too long. I think she held out the fight a little too long, but these are really good books and they busted a slump for me too. So Her Soul to Take, and also Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue. These are some of the most taboo books I've ever read. and you need to check the trigger warnings. If you don't want to read something dark and gritty in the romance context, then don't read this. These are demon romances, like fully claws, split-tongue demons. There's a lot of stuff about like a cult and sacrifices, and very dark, very gritty, very spoopy. Wonderful. Truthfully wonderful. 5 stars each. Fate of Stars by S.T. Simper. This is another female-female romance. This is about a princess and a mermaid, but somehow it was still dark. And it's enemies to lovers, it's captive. I actually liked it. I gave it 5 stars, but I didn't finish on with the series. I might later. It's a series all following the one couple, and sometimes I prefer companion novels, so that's why I didn't follow along with it, but it was good. Witches Get Stitches by Juliette Cross. Again, the second book in that Witches of New Orleans Savoy Sisters series. This is about Violet, who is a tattoo artist, opening her own tattoo shop, and Nico, which is a friends to lovers romance, a lot of pining. He's a werewolf. He knows she's his mate, but he can't act on it because of something that you'll find out in the book. Like, she's keeping him in the friend zone for a reason. These books are very steamy, very fun, very new, very now. Imposter Syndrome, that was the last one. I gave it 5 stars in the Borderline series. I'm gonna add some glitter. This is Oubliette by Gato Glitter. I got it on Etsy. These are so fun. These are little glitter gels. Yeah, this book made me cry. 5 stars. Dead Man Walking by Gianna Darling. The first one, which was actually the second in the series, was just okay. The first book I read this year, I can't remember the name of it right now. But Dead Man Walking, this is a psychopath romance. Mama, when I tell you I want a psychopath to fall in love with me now, not really. This is about Priest and Bee, or Bay, I think it's Bee, Beatrice. This book was erotic, dirty, and it's about a guy who is basically an executioner for a motorcycle gang, falling in love with like the good little Christian girl. And I ate it up, mama. It was delicious. The writing was so good. The possessive alpha male vibes were so good. I love that in a book. Sue me. Okay, Sweet and Bitter Magic. This was a YA book that I read. Female romance YA book. Just a sweet little YA book in the middle of all of my cavorting. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was just okay. Okay, Lone Wolf by Kaylee Newell. This book was just okay. I thought it was going to be about werewolves, but it wasn't really. Fortuna Sworn and the second book, Restless Slumber. This is about a nightmare, which is someone that can inflict your worst fears on you, trying to find her brother that has been kidnapped, but she gets married to the Fae King. She doesn't know he's the king in order to save her brother, and it's about her becoming queen, and they follow Fortuna Sworn, and I don't know if I'll continue on with this series. I got a little bored by book 2, and everything was kind of going wrong for Fortuna. This isn't a found family book. This is like everybody kind of hates everybody kind of book. Yeah, I don't know. Feed by Aveda Weiss. This was a smutty novelette, 50 pages, about a succubus and a moth fae. And it was hot. I loved it. I'm reading the... Let's do this black lipstick. I'm reading the full version now that she came out with called Yours Insatiably. If you like a monster romance, you'll definitely like it. Okay, Ruthless Demon King. I also went through a demon phase. I don't remember this book that much, but I'll probably read the second one. It's about a demon that comes to Earth and like destroys everything, but he might actually have good motives, and the girl with special powers who defies him, and then, you know, she sleeps with him. Fun. Taken by the Dragon King by Amelia Shaw. I kind of hated this. It was really cheesy, even by my standards, poorly written. And then last, right as I finished my makeup, The Demon's Pet by Domino Savage, and I gave this 5 stars. This was about a very murdery guy who was like, you're on my property and basically nobody can touch you, and if anybody touches you, I'm gonna kill them, and he does, and I loved that. Do I have problems? Do I have issues? Yeah. Okay, so those are all the smut books I read this year. Honorable mentions, I'm reading Yours Insatiably by Aveda Weiss. I'm reading the second one, The Demon's Path by Domino Savage. And I am also reading Pestilence by Laura Thalassa, which is like, is she gonna fuck the plague? Is she gonna fuck the plague? Yeah, Difina. That's what I'm reading and all the books I read this year, and this is my dramatic makeup. Sound off in the comments if you just hate me and think I'm a piece of shit for all the books that I'm reading. But if you think that this was fun and you're interested in having fun, then give me a like, give me a comment, give me a shout out, give me a subscribe. I'll probably do this every year, so bye, Mom.